Thank you for continuing with our Emergent online training. This is session 3 where we're going to talk about acknowledgement versus correction. So we're going to dive into an introduction of this concept, then we'll go into each of acknowledgement and correction, and then we're going to talk about the campus goals behind acknowledgement and correction. So as a reminder, Emergent has identified these supports that go behind Tier 1 behavioral systems. We have talked about skill building within the behavior matrix. Then we talked about connections with reach and respond. And now we're going to talk about acknowledgement and correction. Again, tier 1 behavioral supports are just kind of our baseline of getting students to understand what behavioral expectations there are for the school. We are going to be talking specifically about a positive reinforcement system and firm, fair, and corrective discipline. Before we dive in, just want to kind of give you a visual of the similarities and differences between the two. So, both acknowledgement and correction are ways to address behavior. Acknowledgement is positive reinforcement of a desired behavior. So, those are the things that we want the students to do. They're following the school expectations. Whereas with correction, we are addressing negative behavior by telling the students what corrective actions need to be taken or next steps. All right, so acknowledgement. There's 3 different levels to acknowledgement. So first is the individual. So you're acknowledging an individual student for demonstrating those school-wide expectations. Then class-wide, so maybe you want a whole class to have a specific goal and they are getting those acknowledgments and combining them and getting a celebration towards the end. And then school-wide just takes it a step further. The whole school is working towards a specific behavioral goal, and then there's a school-wide celebration. So we can do this through our feedback board tool. We utilize this within advisory as a kind of test run for everybody if you have an advisory. So just kind of giving you the why behind a feedback tool. For an individual, they are able to get that explicit instructional feedback that they are displaying those core values, the behavioral matrix that we have identified here. Class-wide, all the classes working together, there is a group mutual benefit. If one student is doing something correctly, everybody benefits. So the more that they see other students doing things and they're getting benefited, the more they're going to want to add to the benefit as well. For school-wide, takes it a step further. We're as a campus united in a common goal, and we're all working towards that same goal within the behavioral matrix. So here's what that feedback board looks like as a reminder for those of you, and for those of you who may not have seen it. This is just a visual that you hang up in the classroom. You can laminate it. You can print it out with each new goal that you have within this classroom. But within each square, a student is going to be able to put their name, whether that's a sticker, whether they write it, whether they put a sticky note, showing that they have displayed some sort of connection to the core values matrix. So you can make the squares anywhere from 50 to 100 squares, but you're going to want to keep a focus on that feedback board as just kind of a rule of thumb. So you may want to start with a goal of we're using respectful words, or we're staying within our seats during instruction, or we're raising our hands to show respect. Some common goal so that the students know what they're working towards. Then you identify a celebration for what will happen when the whole board is filled up. Maybe that could be an extra 10 minutes at the end of class for us to all play a game together, or something that the students will want to work towards. Just another good thing about feedback boards within classrooms is that it gives you as a teacher a chance to reflect on how much acknowledgement you are giving and what kind. So you can ask these simple questions of how much did I provide today? How much did I provide this week? Was this week a little bit tougher than others? Maybe I need to recenter, reevaluate with all the students together. Hey, we're having a tough week. How can we make this better? Maybe create a different focus. You can also evaluate which students are getting the most feedback or which groups are getting more feedback than others, and maybe turn around and kind of focus on those who need a little bit more love, spread the love. And then you can also identify what behaviors you're acknowledging the most often, and maybe you can switch gears and acknowledge a different kind of behavior. So, when it comes to acknowledgement, they are not all created equal. We have three different categories: general, explicit, and connected acknowledgement. So, general is just going to be a kind of like a pat on the back, a good job, thank you, you're doing great. It's very vague, open ended. The student might know what you're talking about, but it doesn't necessarily directly identify what you are acknowledging. With explicit, you are stating the specific behavior that the student is exhibiting. Thank you for walking. Great job raising your hand whenever I called on you, things like that. You are giving a specific action that the student is doing well. Connected is where we want to be. We want to focus on this connected category where you are stating the action that the student is doing well and you're connecting it back to our core values behavioral matrix. So, thank you for being safe and walking. Thank you for being respectful and raising your hand before speaking. You're wanting to connect it straight back to those three core principles of safe, responsible, and respectful. Okay. You can watch that video within Schoology. Now we're going to focus on correction. So, as a reminder, this was something we went over in the behavioral matrix. These are different behavioral categories. So, you've got minor non disruptive, minor disruptive, major escalated, major crisis. And again, that goes from bottom up and left to right on just the severity of those kinds of behaviors. With each category, there is a different level of response that you need to take when correcting the behavior. So here's just kind of a toolbox that you can pull from when it comes to correcting those behaviors. So for minor non disruptive, since the student is not disrupting any of their peers around, you don't necessarily want to pull attention to that student from their peers, but you do want to address it. So you can address maybe if they're off task, maybe watching a video on their Chromebook. Stand by them. Now they know that you're looking at their Chromebook and they're going to want to correct that. You can also praise peers around them. Thank you so much, Timmy, for being on Schoology and working on the assignment that I have assigned. Or you can give them nonverbal cues. So maybe if there's a time that they don't need to have their Chromebooks open, you can make a gesture with your hand to shut that Chromebook. Then we'll step up to disruptive. So when a student is being disruptive and it is affecting their peers, then you're going to want to maybe verbalize, hey, this is not something that we're doing right now. Let's fix it. So for speak and spin, you tell them, okay, this is what you need to be doing. When I come back around, I want to see that you are working on your assignment in Schoology. Once you speak to them, take another lap around, check on other students, come back. Once they have done that, then you can tell them, great job. Thank you so much for being respectful and following directions. You might also want to take a private conversation. You never really want to point out the student in front of everybody else because that also increases the disruption within the class. So it is a good rule of thumb to have a private conversation. You don't necessarily need to take the student out into the hallway, but just having a small, quiet conversation with them about, hey, I need you to, you know, fix your behavior right now. Then, whenever we get into the major behaviors of escalated and crisis, that's whenever you're going to want to involve admin. So maybe a student is having a really bad day, they need to be neutralized, de-escalated, and then if there's a imminent danger, precautions need to be taken, like maybe evacuating the rest of the students out of the classroom and trying to take care of everybody else as a student might be a little bit escalated. So again, when it comes to that feedback, that correction, there are different levels to it. We are still wanting to get to that connected. So again, general would be something like stop that, don't do it. You're not telling them what they're stopping, you're not telling them what they need to not do, but you're just giving a very quick, snappy direction. With explicit, you are stating what you want them to be doing. So please walk. Please raise your hand whenever I am speaking, things like that. And then connected, again, we're connecting it back to that core values matrix. Please be safe and walk. Please be respectful and raise your hand. So these are just some more examples of what that could be when you are connecting back to the core values matrix. So again, with safe, you can ask these questions: respectful and responsible. So safe, you've got what does your body look like during this activity? This is whenever you want to kind of reset your classroom with the students. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked a little bit about acknowledgement versus correction, we're going to talk a little bit more about what are the goals behind these two things. So, the biggest goal is that when it comes to acknowledgement versus correction, we want a 3-to-1 ratio. So, we want 3 acknowledgments for every 1 correction. We want 3 positives for every 1 sort of less positive interaction. We want those acknowledgments and corrections to be connected to that behavioral matrix. And there needs to be an increased student understanding of that school-wide expectation. So the more that we have those connected acknowledgments, the more we have those connected corrections, the more explicit we are with the students in that these are the school-wide expectations: safe, responsible, respectful, and this is what it's supposed to look like. What you see on the screen on the left is a feedback tool that we are able to utilize within the Emergent Tree tool on um, ClassLink that allows us to kind of keep a tally of, okay, how many acknowledgments are we doing? How many corrections are we doing? It's just kind of a way to keep us in check of like, okay, I'm being very corrective today. Maybe I need to acknowledge some students and tell them what they're doing correct. As always, if you have any questions, you can send me an email. And there is also the Emergent Tree foundational training on ClassLink in the Emergent Tree application. Thank you.